Hello everyone, it's Blue, and today I wanted to talk about ganking for a bit. So as you can see maybe in the background footage, I've just made a new ganking build and I've been ganking on it for a bit in the last few days. And I have quite a few thoughts about ganking right now and the state of ganking right now. As you may know, it's totally not the best that it's ever been. It is kind of decent, I guess, if you have many friends and you gank often, but in general, it's really not the best, and I have quite a few points to make about it. So, as a premise, I'm just gonna say I don't really depth gank, so I don't really have that much experience on it, and I'm not gonna talk about it because simply I don't have enough knowledge about it to, express my opinion on it. So I'm gonna talk about mainly overall ganking. And also I wanted to say that I'm gonna split this video into like two parts, I think, because I might end up talking way too much as I usually do, because I have a lot of thoughts on the state of the game right now. So I think this part I'm gonna talk about mainly the two polls that recently came out that Akamatsu made. I'm gonna put them on screen if you don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm also not the first person to talk about them. I will link a video by Maestro, I think, in my description, who is a person that I agree with on this topic. And the second part is gonna talk about the more build part of ganking, because I also have a lot of thoughts about that. So let's get into the polls. The first poll was, do you think builds can currently do too much damage in PvP? Now, the problem in ganking right now is kind of quick drop builds. If you've played Deepwoken in the last few months, you will have seen a resurgence, let's say, in quote-unquote Asia-style builds, which focus a lot on M1 damage and getting people out of the fight quickly. So what's the answer to this poll? The answer is yes, overwhelmingly. You can see almost or more than 20,000 people have voted yes in all contexts, both in 1v1s and in ganks. So my question is, how can that be true when there's a third poll which asks, do you feel that people are sometimes too tanky in combat? And the answer is also yes at 20,000 votes. So how are both of those true at the same time? How can they be true at the same time? That's what I wonder, really. Because if you think that people do too much damage, then you also think that people are too squishy. Because they already nerfed the damage multipliers in PvP combat. So if you're not squishy, you should not be dying that easily, right? But no, 20,000 people voted yes on both of these questions. So we really have to ask, which one do we nerf? Because if we nerf both, the game is just gonna feel absolutely horrible. You're not gonna be able to do damage, and you're not gonna be able to be tanky at the same time. So fights are either gonna be really, really extended if they nerf damage too much, or they're gonna be really, really short if they nerf tankiness too much. So how do we solve this? And people just don't have an answer because they voted yes to both questions. So they're just leaving the answer to the devs, and we can see from past updates that the devs don't always make the best decision for the game. Now, what is my personal opinion on this? I personally feel that this is very build dependent, like the damage problem, and that the devs really just have no clue how to properly nerf what makes people tanky or makes them do too much damage. Because it's not a general game problem, I don't believe. You never see people get quick dropped in, let's say, under a minute in chime, for example, unless they really cannot parry and you have a decent damaging build, For example, my Bloodfather build, sometimes it can drop people fast if they don't know how to play the game. So we really have to ask, and I will give credit to Yeetmaster on this, are the people who are voting on this poll good enough to express their opinion? And I personally just don't believe so. If you play any amount of Deepwoken at a semi like non-casual level, you will know that if you're good enough, you can survive. Of course, that has to take into account like how good your PC is, how good your connection is, because of course, if you lag and you get hit by, let's say, 4 or 5 heavy M1s, yeah, you are gonna lose at least a bar. But if you just play the game well enough, you play your cards well enough, you play your dodges and parries and blocks well enough, you can survive a really decent time, even if you're like outnumbered 3-1. And you might see that as well in my clips. Like, I don't claim to be that good of a player, but I can survive decently long, unless I'm getting really like absolutely cheese, like I don't know, fucking sightless beam, 7 clutching shadows, an eclipse kick and stuff, you know. But generally, the tankiness problem is not really that bad. Like, you don't really quick drop that often, unless you are kind of bad at a game, or if a person has, you know, a build that can confirm stuff, like this build I'm playing on. It's not really a true confirm, because I don't have frozen legs. But yeah, if I land my eclipse kick, that's like a bar gone. My eclipse kick does 150 damage to dummies. So it's not like laughable damage, but it's not that much damage, because eclipse kick is hard to land. So you really have to ask yourself, like, are these people good enough to be expressing their opinion on such a like general problem of the game, if they don't know and they haven't experienced the game enough? So what is my opinion? My opinion is that some things are kind of cheese. For example, I think there was talk about nerfing sightless beam so that you can escape most of it if you get hit by like the last part of it. And sightless beam is a pretty decently big problem, because it's a consistent, decently low cooldown DPS option for ganks. But the reality is that if this poll goes through and they nerf, for example, damage modifiers again, or they make people less tanky, the game is just gonna feel like shit. No sugarcoating. The reason why this poll is going is because the devs don't know how to properly nerf the things in their game. And we have seen that time and time again. I've already said this in the video. They simply don't know how to keep stuff from getting exploited by the Deepwoken player base. As you know, if you've been a Deepwoken player for like more than a year, the Deepwoken player base will always find ways to cheese stuff somehow. Whether it is in PvE, if it's bosses, if it's just extremely cheese builds in Chime, they will find a way. And they will quick drop you if they want to, even if the devs absolutely nerfed this like damage modifiers or whatever solution they find to this problem. It's not gonna work. If you just nerf everything straight up, it's not gonna work. People are gonna find a way to work around it. And meanwhile, for the people who don't have a workaround, the game is gonna feel like ass. That's simply the reality. And we can see this even now with another problem that is plaguing the game, and that is, in my opinion, reducing the player count by a lot, which is the Ether drought that we're all going through. Ether feels like absolute dog shit right now. And I'm sorry for cursing, but I'm not sponsored anyways, so I don't care. The Ether drought is a massive problem right now. Ether is just such a hassle right now, man. You will see in many of my clips that are playing in the background that I keep running out of Ether. Even though I'm using Shadow and I'm hitting multiple people at the same time with stuff like, for example, my Shadow gun, which is absolutely massive and should give me back my Ether, I just don't get it back. My tempo is permanently low, even though I'm fighting like 4 to 5 people. My Ether is permanently low, and getting Ether back when you get to 0 tempo is absolutely impossible. And that's the reason why like 90% of the gank builds right now run Soulchemist, because they have to. There is simply no option except Soulchemist for ganks. Unless you are, of course, a quick drop, like high damage, heavy build, which relies on combos and relies on block breaks, and just aims to take you out the fight as soon as possible without wasting that much ether, because you objectively don't need much. So the game right now just feels like a slobfest, and I think this is genuinely like skewing the public opinion on tankiness, because yes, people might feel tanky. Do you know why that is? Because you don't have the mantras to fucking knock them. Because as soon as you use like 4 mantras in a row, 5 mantras in a row, with maybe like one M1 in between them, you just run out of ether instantly and you cannot get it back. That is genuinely a problem. Like, you cannot quick drop people, and that's why you feel they're so tanky, because you don't have the necessary mantras to knock them. You don't have the mix-ups, you don't have the combo extenders, so you just cannot knock people when you're low ether. That's why people take so long to knock. This has been a problem since the ether drought update. I still do not know why they didn't go back on their words, go back on their updates, and reverted this, because it genuinely feels like shit. I think this genuinely has like tanked single-handedly the player count of Deepwoken by at least 2,000 people, bro, because the game feels so bad to play right now. And that's like not only a gank problem, it's most predominant in chime. Like chime matches just take so fucking long, because like Alchemist isn't even a solution to that. In chime, Alchemist is extremely nerfed, and you can't even like splash ether potions on yourself. You just have to rely on like stalling. You have to land your M1s, and that's really hard in chime, where people that just have good FPS, low ping, and they can just parry you, you know? It is genuinely a problem, and I think it has to be addressed if we want to solve the tankiness and the quick drop problem. And the last point I wanted to make is an anticipation of the second video I'm gonna post on this. I am taking a big risk by making this video before the update drops, you know, the update that's been delayed for 5 days. For me, it's gonna come out tomorrow because I'm EU, so of course we always get stuff 1 day later. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about is that objectively, if you play any kind of ganks, you will realize that even having like double attunement on cap and reinforced armor is not gonna save you from being quick dropped. The only thing that can save you from being quick dropped is 2 things. 1, playing the game well, and 2 is Alchemist potions, which also goes back to the Alchemist and ether problem. So you can't even like exclusively nerf Alchemist, because that's gonna make the game equally as bad for them, and you can't even like save yourself by going a Alchemist build. You will just have to endure the shit that is this game right now. But yeah, I've been going on talking for way too much now. I think I've expressed my points well enough, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Expect the second part decently soon, and yeah, enjoy your day.